Welcome to Seasoned Conversations, where experience meets insight and life's journey reveals its deepest wisdom. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell, and here we share authentic stories of reinvention, purpose, and fulfillment from the seasoned paths we walk. Together, we'll explore how to age boldly, live intentionally, and embrace our second act with clarity and confidence. So pull up a chair. There's always room at the table for Seasoned Conversations. Welcome to Seasoned Conversations. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell, and this is the very first podcast, y'all. I'm excited about this work. I'm excited about the experience and the journey that we're going to walk together. Seasoned Conversations comes out of the work that I did with writing the book Too Seasoned to Care, and the creation of the community, the Seasoned Collective. All could be looked at and viewed on theseasonedcollective.com, theseasonedcollective.com. And so, still laboring over what this podcast is going to morph into. I know it's going to be a learning journey. I know it is going to be an epiphany journey. I know that we're going to learn a lot together because each and every conversation we have is going to be a conversation rich with wisdom, insight, and perspective from the seasoned point of view. So what does season mean? Season is my way of getting away from the word old. Senior citizen, decrepit, old, any of those words that young people use to describe seniored people. And so I like the word seasoned because what it speaks to is, look at this in my beard, right? And so in my younger days, it was all black, like my hair was all black. But now in my more seasoned years, it's got some seasoning in it. It's got some salt, it's got some pepper, it's got some paprika, got some oregano, it's got some life seasoning in it. And that is what God does when you live the little something, something, right? And so when you have this, I believe we've earned it, right? And so I'm in the space where I'm embracing, the season part of my life, the season perspective of my life, and wanting to share my voice more, share my wisdom, but I also want to draw out the wisdom of others to glean from what they've learned. Part of our journey in our life is to share lived experiences with others, whether that is through our parenting, our teaching, our mentoring, any of those things to which we are sharing that of ourselves so that others don't have to go through the same struggles that we've gone through, right? And so there's beauty in wisdom. I mean, it is part of the cycle of life. At some point, you have to pay it forward and you have to give it back. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to listen to everything I have to say. You don't even have to agree with everything I have to say. As my wife says, chew the fat, spit out the bones. Chew what's good for you, and the rest of it, kick it to the curb. Maybe at some point you might want to come back and pick some of that stuff out you spit to the curb, whatever the case may be. And so season is the word that you're going to hear throughout this journey. It's the exploration that we're going to take, not only in our own lives, but I'm going to provide a pathway and a journey with my life as a reflection, because it's the only thing that I have to glean from, right? My life. And so let's do this thing together. And what we really want to do this segment here is wisdom from the rearview mirror, lessons from life's second half, right? And so the rearview mirror is important in this space. The metaphor speaks to, you know, looking in the rearview mirror. But what I've come to learn is that it's not um, the only thing that we should do with respect to the rearview mirror is to stay focused on the rear view mirror. It's hard to move forward when you're continuing to look back. However, looking back is important. It's extremely important, and it's something that we should be thinking about. And so, this work and this journey is going to take us back sometimes, because sometimes there are nuggets that we left behind. Sometimes there is some wisdom and some lessons learned that we left behind. And sometimes there's answers to questions that we've left behind. And sometimes there is some uncovered information that we left behind, or perspective that we did not understand. And so looking back for those kinds of things are a good thing, but not looking back um, to the extent that looking back stalls your progress, stalls your forward movement, stifles you. And so the nuggets of our past is the treasure of our future. And so, and that's why we do have to learn those kinds of lessons, because reflection is important. But the interesting thing about reflection is that you have to slow down and take some pauses in life in order to sit in reflection, particularly of past experiences, because how reflection transforms experiences is it transforms them into valuable lessons. And so it's important that we embrace the power of reflection, that we can look back, see where we might have done things right, or we might have done things wrong, or we might have missed some things. The other thing is being honest with yourself about things you have to forgive yourself for in the past. And so there's a lot that can be gleaned from reflection. And some of those things that we have to look back in the past for is in the process of letting go. And so we have to begin to understand, like, when a past experience is serving as a burden and is pulling you down or slowing you down. And so it's good to look back, to examine those kinds of things, to be able to see what is it in my life that's keeping me from being able to move forward, and how do I release that from my life so that I do have a measure of freedom that allows me to evolve, to advance. And so understanding and valuing, mistakes, and talking to yourself and embracing imperfections and mistakes, all of that stuff deepens wisdom. And so it's important that, we do, look back and look at mistakes and embrace them only as a learning tool, a bump in the road, nothing that keeps us from moving, but something that just is a road sign of caution, detour, curve ahead, potential rocks falling, potential deer crossing, something that is supposed to alert you, or something that was supposed to alert you and you looked over it and you're not paying any attention to those things. The second thing that we should be mindful of is really being able to redefine success, right? And look at how our past successes have also taught us things, how we have learned from things or learned some things from success, right? And how success has evolved us as we've become more seasoned, right? Because um, life's joy is in the measurement of our success. And so when we recognize and we see the successes of our lives, that is also something that we should pause for. If for no other reason, to affirm yourself, to inspire yourself, to thank yourself, and give yourself the recognition that you so deserve, even when you don't receive that recognition from others. And so it's important that our personal perspective on moving from achievement oriented success to fulfillment driven success, which is different, right? And so achievement oriented is wealth, money, material things. Fulfillment driven is that thing which brings you joy to your life. And how much of that exists within you today as a seasoned individual? And so, as we continue to move forward, what I'm looking to establish in this community of the seasoned collective is giving us the ability, right, to prioritize authentic relationships. One of the things that I am um, enjoying in terms of my shift within my season life is the relationship between my wife and I. And so it's a really cool thing to see develop because there's beauty in getting to a point where you're no longer trying to prove yourself to each other, right? And you are embracing your relationship from an individual perspective, but also from a collective perspective, meaning that we can appreciate each other for the individualism that we bring to life, but we also respect each other for what we bring to life together. And so, as a result of that, it creates a deeper relationship, not only deeper in how much I love her, how much I adore her, and how much I care for her, but in addition to all of that, how much I value her. And I guess one could say how much I need her, right, to validate who I am and validate how I show up in life. And so it's just one of those relationships that evolves. And I think that as we get older and as our relationship, continues to progress, the seasoning of that relationship, the seasoning of our marriage is so much sweeter because there's so much more depth in the meaning of who we are as a couple. And as a result of that, it gives us a courage to be authentic with each other. But not only are we authentic with each other, but we're also authentic in the world and to the world and of the world, right? And so truth is our friend. You live and die by the truthful tongue. And so it's a beautiful thing to be in a relationship with someone and you don't have to hide any element of yourself, whether it is a secret, whether it is something that is unspoken, unsaid, whatever, but to be fully authentic, transparent, nothing to lie about, nothing to hide. It is what it is, right? And so it's a beautiful thing, and that insight into how wisdom and authenticity naturally aligns in the season years because you both have deeper clarity on who you are and what it is you're trying to accomplish, not only individually, but what you're trying to accomplish collectively. And so reflecting on why authenticity, becomes easier, yet more important, right? in life's second half. And so it's a cool thing to kind of see. And then lastly, we want to explore something that we're all after, right? And so it's partly why we're having this conversation. Um, it's partly what many of us think about at this season point of our life, and that's our legacy, right? And we want to explore how a seasoned perspective encourages you to consciously consider the legacy you're creating. Not all of us like go through life um, with a clear idea of fulfilling the purpose or fulfilling a purpose. A lot of us get through many of our accomplishments in our lives, never um, feeling satisfied from the perspective of fulfilling a purpose. Our why, right? Why did I do this? What was my life all about? What was I contributing to? And so we want to make sure that we slow this down a little bit so that we can reflect on one like really great question. And that is, what kind of legacy am I building through my daily actions? And that is about paying attention um, to what you're doing, how you're doing it, and more importantly, why you're doing it. And so I want to leave you some actionable items to really kind of stimulate your insights and give you a um, guide rail to getting to this place we call purpose. And so the first one is slow down. Um, you should regularly schedule time to reflect. Um, Start journaling. You know, it took me a long time to understand the importance of journaling and writing my thoughts down on paper. There's something therapeutic about getting things out of your head and onto paper where you can see them, organize them, and make sense out of them. And so, but in order to do that, you have to slow down. And often, busy people like us who got a lot of things going on life, family, profession, business, job, marriage, kids we don't have a lot of time to slow down sometimes to kind of reflect on life, but it's really important that you do that. The second thing is practice gratitude, having a daily appreciation for the lessons you've learned already, right? And so remember, this whole conversation right here is about wisdom from the rearview mirror, being able to look behind us and learn and glean from the things that shaped and molded us, right? Allowed us to become who we are. That was the whole notion of me writing the book Too Seasoned to Care. And so, because it allowed me to explore areas of my life that I never thought about, had a tremendous impact on how I became who I am, not discovering who I am, but discovering the why I am the way I am. Why do I see life the way that I see life? Why and what has created my own personal lens of life? And so, in order to do that, you have to appreciate past lessons. Maybe even sometimes going back and exploring things that you probably should have learned a lesson from, but you didn't. And so, but giving yourself the grace to be able to do that. The second or the third thing, I'm sorry, is to act with intentionality. Align your daily actions with your newly refined values through your daily actions, like being purposeful, not just like living life all footloose and fancy free, like really putting some intentionality into your life around the purpose of your life or the calling of your life or the blessing of your life. and really beginning to place the right priorities in your life for accomplishments, right? And not the material accomplishments, because you could do those with day-to-day activities, tasks, and priorities, right? But that fulfillment piece takes something different. And it does take an intentionality. And so I have an engagement uh, task for you to do. I am going to ask that you answer this question. And the way you answer this question is to go to our website at theseasoncollective.com and go to our podcast page. And there at the bottom, you will see a form to answer this question. And the question for you is, if you could offer your younger self one piece of advice or one piece of wisdom, seasoned wisdom, what would it be? If you can offer your younger self one piece of seasoned wisdom, what would it be? When you purchase my book, you will see at the end of the book that I actually wrote letters to what I describe as my younger selves. And I'll explain that in another conversation, what I mean by younger selves. But do that. Reflect a little bit and think about your younger self. And what would you tell your younger self based on the wisdom and the seasoning that you have on your life today? And so share those on social media, hashtag seasoned conversations, so that we can see them and we can clock them and see that your thought. Join our Facebook page at the Seasoned Collective. Get in the community. We are creating a community so that we all can glean from each other. And so thank you so much for listening to our first podcast. Excited about where this is going. I'm excited about the journey. Let's do this thing together. No man is an island, and it's better to huddle up for a lot of different reasons. But at our seasoned age, I know that we are very particular about who we huddle up with. And we're going to talk about that as well. There's so many things, goodness, to talk about when it comes to our seasoned age and where we're going, the kids, the grandkids, the retirement, where we're going, having fun, vacationing, health, health, education, learning more, exploring more, traveling, broadening your perspective, doing those things that you work so very hard to do throughout your life. Now is the time to enjoy that. But I want you to enjoy it with purpose. And so continue to clock in with us. Follow our Facebook page. Subscribe to our podcast. So every time we drop a new jewel, some more nuggets, periodically I'll bring somebody on so that we can have a seasoned conversation about a particular topic so that we can keep this thing going. So thank you once again. It has been my absolute pleasure to spend this time with you. I do not take the time you spend with me for granted. I know how precious and valuable time is in our seasoned space. And so God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your week. Until next time, take care of yourself. Thank you for joining me for today's seasoned conversation. Remember, every step we take shapes the legacy we leave. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone else navigating their own seasoned journey. To learn more and to become part of our growing community, visit us at theseasoncollective.com. Until next time, stay seasoned, stay purposeful, and remember, it's never too late to care deeply, to live boldly, and to rewrite your story.